Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Apples and Ginos Fantasy Hockey Podcast. My name is Nate Groot Niblink. I'm the creator of Apples and Ginos and originator of the Zero G Draft Strategy. In this podcast, Blake and I are going to give you all the best streamers and ad options for next week so you can start planning early. Let's get it. And of course, I have your friend and my best friend, Blake Creamer, here with me. Blake, how are we feeling tonight?
Oh, yeah. Yes, buddy. It's waiver time. I'm stoked. I was told recently in a Discord that my oh yeahs have become less enthusiastic. And I thought I needed to sort of up my game there. Yeah. So, shout out to my one fan. I have a fan, Nate. Did you know about this?
I didn't know about this, but you deserve more than one fan, Blake.
Oh my God, what a nice person. And also, I got to shout out the Big Dipper. I told him I would do it, but I'm changing his name to the Beef Dipper because he's a beefy, hunky, just stallion of a man. All right, Nate, how you doing, buddy? What's going on?
I'm doing well. I didn't realize we were going to go that deep with each other tonight, but here we are.
Giggity.
Why don't we get deep into some news and notes? Hit us with some newsies, Blake.
Double giggity. Jeez, Nate. He's on the pixie sticks again, everybody. And that's fine. When Nate has pixie sticks, the pod really takes off. So let's agree on that. Let's move on. I don't know where I'm going with this. All right, let's talk about some newsies. Okay, we got some stuff going on here. I'm going to rip through. All right, first off, sounds like Cale Makar. Just heads up, everybody. Cale Makar is playing through an injury. Surprise, surprise. But he seems to be doing fine with it. But Jared Bednar, head coach of the Avalanche, said that he and Josh Manson are kind of battling through some injuries that they've had for a little while here, and they weren't at the Avs practice today. So just something to keep an eye on. It doesn't seem like he's going to miss any games. This is, again, something that's ongoing. But yeah, obviously, Cale Makar is the piece we care about. Josh Manson. Thank you for filling up the water bottles on the bench, my man. I don't know why I'm thrashing on Josh Manson. He's a beautiful man. Let's carry on. Carter Hart is also, he's going to be out with an illness for Saturday's game. That's interesting. They say he's going to be out tomorrow with an illness. Have you noticed, Nate, this is just a little off topic, but there's so many players out with illnesses these days. Like, it's weird. It almost feels like COVID times.
Yeah, I mean, we've had it go through our house here too. I was laid up for a day or two this week as well. So, yeah, if it's anything like what I had, it was not pleasant for the time that it was here.
That's right. Nate, you are such an empathetic person. That's what I like about you. All right. Let's carry on. We got to talk about the Spurge man, Jared Spurgeon. I call him Block Party, but I'm thinking about changing his name to Spurge because it sounds funny to me. I don't know. We'll workshop that, right, Nate?
We'll workshop it. Yeah.
Okay, sweet. Yeah. He was game time decision. He's going to be a game time decision for Saturday. And even if he can go, I think we need to start looking at Brock Faber just as a legit ad, right? This guy played over 30 minutes in his last game. He was getting power play time. I don't know, 30 minutes. He's a rookie. Like, I can't remember the exact tweet, but it's either he's the first rookie to do that or the first rookie to play over 30 minutes in X amount of years. I don't know. This is terrible analysis, but Brock Faber, everybody, 30-minute game for the rookie. I like the player. I don't know. What are your thoughts on Faber real quick here, Nate?
Faber is definitely a guy who has played terrifically defensively and hasn't really flashed a lot offensively. He also hasn't really been given a ton of power play time to exhibit that part of his game. If it is there, it's hard to say exactly what they're asking him to do as well, right? He's definitely a terrific skater, and he has obviously scored points in his junior, and I believe he played. I believe is an NCAA product, if I'm remembering all that correctly. I think he might have not even played junior. He might have been straight from high school into NCAA coming up. But yeah, he did have some production back then, but I don't think he's ever been truly regarded as a top-end offensive prospect. So I'm not expecting huge offensive numbers for Faber at any point, but I mean, if he's playing 30 minutes, you can expect that he might be able to run into a point or two from time to time.
Absolutely. So keep an eye out for Brock Faber and Jared Spurge. All right. We got to talk about Rickard Rakell.
We've been waiting for that one.
Yeah, I am waiting. Just get healthy, my man, so I can start doing it more. He's close to returning, but Mike Sullivan says he's still day to day. He did participate fully in practice, so that's good news. The Pittsburgh Penguins sorely need him. I think when he is back in the lineup, he's going to get the line one, power play one treatment, I believe, right? And, he's had a terrible start to the season, obviously, with his injury. But then before that, I think he has 4 assists in 17 games or something like that, without looking it up. That's how good my memory is. All right. But yeah, 0 goals. Damn. No, that's not what this man does. So I expect that to regress positively, and he should get some good deployment moving forward. So keep an eye on Ricard Raquel. We got to talk about JT Compher there in Detroit. He was out recently, but he should be good to go for Saturday's game with the Wings. So that might sap the value on Joe Veleno there. The Rolling Lines legend, Joe Veleno, he has his own podcast title, buddy. Oh, that's nice. But yeah, Veleno, he could be done there. I mean, in the practice lines, they had JT Compher up centering Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat, and Veleno was down on the third line, but he was still getting power play one. So just keep an eye on it. I think you're probably going to want to think before you drop Veleno because of, we'll talk about a good schedule that he has next week, but I definitely manage your expectations. I don't think we're going to be getting 20-minute Joe Veleno anytime soon. All right, let's move on. We got to talk about the game tonight. Jake Ottinger left the game with a lower body injury and didn't return, so that stinks. And now he's not going to travel with the team either. So what does this mean, everybody? Nate, what does it mean?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it means, but
I don't know. I was setting you up. I was setting you up there, Nate. Come on. It's like you're leaving me hanging with a high five.
no, for sure. I think you got to go out and take a look at your team and see if you got room here and see what you're gonna do. But yeah, for sure, I think it's a interesting situation.
Oh, damn. Nate's taking the high road. He's not even coming down on the side of a decision, folks, and that's fine. I'm saying you got to go add Scott Wedgwood, all right? The wedgie, you got to add Scott Wedgwood, all right? I think you add him now, and then you deal with it on the back end, right? Obviously, he's not Jake Ottinger, but he's playing for a team that's very good, has a good defensive environment. So definitely go out and, like Nate said, if it makes sense for your team, grab Scott Wedgwood, right? I think could be a great option, and who knows how long Ottinger's going to miss. So there you go. That's how we do here at A&G, all right? It's called 0G, all right? And we're not talking about gravity. Am I right, Nate?
You're right about that.
This is not space, all right? We're not astronauts, although sometimes I think we are. Let's move on. We got to talk about the Arizona Coyotes. Sean Durzi, the Durzi Shore he was still out for the game today, but Nick Schmaltz and Jack McBain, they played tonight and literally did nothing. So that's fine. But like I say, anytime I get a chance to talk about Jack McBain, I will. All right. So they're good to go. It's nice to see Schmaltz didn't miss a game there. So that's fine. Also, we got to talk about Vladimir Tarasenko. He missed tonight's game due to a personal matter, and we don't really have any other info other than that. So we need to keep an eye on his status for Sunday's game. But yeah, it was a weird tweet, the way they said it, like he has the team's full support in taking this time or whatever. So that says to me, like, it could be something maybe longer than a game, right? I hope for his sake, it's something that can just get dealt with and he's good to go. But yeah, I would be surprised if he plays Sunday, honestly. So just keep that in mind. Also from that game, Matthew Joseph, he didn't finish the game either. So if you're rostering him in the deepest of deep leagues, he's no bueno. All right. He's not going to go. All right. He didn't finish the game. So look for updates on both players mañana. Okay. Let's talk about the Seattle Kraken. Release the Kraken, Jared Spurgeon. Jared Spurge. I don't know. I just keep saying Spurge. I'll bring that back. So we're talking about Seattle Kraken. They sent down Ty Cartier.
Maybe.
Ty Cartai. I'm going to call him Ty Cartai because I like how that sounds better. And they called up Shane Wright. So I don't know exactly what this means. I did see a tweet after that happened that someone mentioned that this could just be a salary cap thing, like something to do like beyond my knowledge with salary cap stuff. So, it could just be something that gets sorted out by the weekend, but definitely keep an eye on it. I think Ty Cartier is a reasonable stream for Seattle. Like he's a shot monster. He's like, he's just a really efficient, low minute, but he's a per minute beast. So I'm a fan of that player. I think he could be a real good one in the league here. And Shane Wright, yeah, I mean, he's doing okay down there. but he's gonna need real deployment to pop here. And it's rough that he got drafted to Seattle. He's probably choked about that, right? Because I think he could benefit from going to a team where they'll just feed him some minutes, give this kid 18 to 20 minutes and let him flail out there. Like some prospects sort of do well with that. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on Shane Wright? Like what you've seen from him?
Yeah, I think it's still too early. It's kind of weird because he was billed as like a super NHL ready prospect, but he
Yeah.
hasn't really delivered on that. But it's also hard to figure out just because Seattle's a weird team that way, and they don't want to have guys that are trying to figure things out. It seems
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's a weird situation. I still got hope for him, but I can't say I'm super excited about his fantasy prospects.
Yeah, not on that team. So I don't know. Anywho, we got to move on. We got to talk about Jeff, the twirly woo Skinner. He got trucked by big Nate McKinnon. And now he's out indefinitely. So this really sucks for Buffalo. I mean, the hits keep coming for them. There's no timeline on his return. So in his stead, I mean, guys like the Butler, Zach Benson, going to get more deployment. JJ Paterka's floor stays high. Guys like that are going to continue to get more deployment. And our boy, Nate, Casey Middlestat, who, FYI, sounds like he got another goal in that game, my
Got an
man.
empty netter, scored on both of his shots.
So I guess the coach relies on him in defensive situations because he's just a really good player. Let's agree on that. Nate, you with me on this?
No.
Oh, God. All right, that's fine. Okay, we're moving on. We got to talk about Patrick Laine. He's going to miss approximately 6 weeks with a broken collarbone. From bad to worse for Laine. It's been a garbage season. This season seems like a wash. So I don't know. That's really frustrating. But guys like Kent Johnson going to get more deployment, more offensive opportunities. I don't know. Any thoughts on that, Nate?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with the lines after this. Yeah, it's hard to be super excited about
Yeah.
anything happening in Columbus right now. Jenner goes down, Laine goes down. Maybe it'll force them to consolidate some minutes to a few top players, and Fantilli might get a boost. Maybe Kent Johnson, as you mentioned, gets a boost. The Russian line gets a boost.
Yep.
All together, like it's a net minus for everyone, though.
Yeah. It's weird, though. I don't think they're going to be as bad as they were last year. I think because of that Russian line. Like that Russian line is pretty damn solid. And then Fantilli, they're going to be bad, but not as bad as last season. And I think Merzlikins is probably a little more locked in this year, so he could steal a game for them every now and then, but I don't know. My 2 cents. Let's move on. Phoenix Copley was injured in practice for the LA Kings, had to be helped off the ice, so doesn't really affect fantasy too much. He's a good streamer when he got the starts, but Cam Talbot is the man in LA, and that's going to continue, so no worries there. And then, Nate, we should probably talk really quickly on the St. Louis coaching change there. Craig Berube out. Drew Bannister, a.k.a. Kevin Bannister from Home Alone. He's the new head coach there, interim head coach. Sorry, it's not Kevin Bannister, Kevin McAllister. Oh, man, I ruined the joke. I love Home Alone, everybody. Merry Christmas. Yeah, he's a new coach. So I think personally, my take on this whole thing is I don't know a lot about this coach. And I think that we probably just have to treat these games like homework games, right? Whether you're watching the game or you're checking the box scores, we need to see how this coach is deploying these players, what the lines look like. And what have you seen so far with the lines there, Nate? And what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, it's been interesting. It looks like Kyrou got back up on the top line in the last game. So that's obviously good. Kyrou, Buchnevich, Thomas was a line for a good chunk of that game. You'd like to see that. It means bad things for Jake Neighbors. He got demoted down to the third line. Bad things for Braden Shen. But the other part of it is that Kyrou was on power play 2 and Oscar Sundqvist was up on top power play, which is mind-boggling.
What are we doing?
Just running an archaic power play setup, I guess. But that also means that Torrey Krug got a ton of the minutes and looks to be locked in as PP1 there as well. So,
Nice.
yeah, just first glance, first things from the first game. Definitely there will be changes that come to all of this. But yeah, we'll see what he rolls out next time and have to continually monitor, as you say, in these early games.
Awesome. Nate, break down the week 11 schedule for us.
All right, let's get rolling with that. We got Monday, 5 games. Tuesday, 11 games. Wednesday, 3 games. Thursday, 12 games. Friday, 4 games. Saturday, 14 games. And Sunday, we have 0 games because that's Christmas Eve, and we don't play hockey on Christmas Eve.
Selfish.
So, yeah, it's definitely a high impact on the heavy nights here. The lowest Heavy night is 11 games, so you're
Yep.
probably not getting people in for any of the heavy nights here. If you can, then that's an added bonus, but it's going to be a little bit unlikely. You might have one across the 3 heavy nights that you have a spot where you have a streamer spot available, but you're definitely not going to have streamer spots available through all of your heavy games this week. So it's going to be a real focus on the off nights for sure. In total, this is 49 games played. It's a light week overall, but still decently substantial. It's not the lightest week we've had on the year by any stretch. Only Minnesota has a Monday, Tuesday back to back to open the week if you do have room on that Tuesday heavy night. We do have Detroit, Seattle, and Winnipeg that have Monday, Wednesday off nights to open the week, so that's nice. Um,
Hmm.
One thing I will say, just with having no Sunday game, all your off night streaming obviously now has to come before the Saturday. So basically, all your streaming has to be wrapped up by Friday. So think about that. Think about condensing your week, condensing your ads, getting your ads in before the Friday, essentially. Maybe you can stream like a goalie start or something on the Saturday if your goalies don't happen to be playing on the Saturday. But yeah, definitely. I think this is a week where you really got to focus up front, getting your games played in early, and yeah, focus on the teams with all the off nights. You have Detroit and Winnipeg with Wednesday, Friday off nights. It's yeah. Overall, it's a pretty tough streaming week, all things told. Really, you're going to be looking at Detroit or Winnipeg here with the 3 off nights. That's going to be where you're going to make the most hay in this week to keep yourself off of the bench nightmares that everyone has gone through at one point or another. So if you can, definitely this is a week to make sure that you do go through, set your lineups, check the Tuesday and Thursday, and see if you do have an open spot on one of those nights. It can make a huge difference this week, much more so than your average week where you have better options. But in a week where there's limited options, if you can fit someone in there, like I'll take the example of Montreal here. Montreal plays on Monday, Thursday, and Friday. If you can fit them in for the Thursday, then you actually have a pretty good streaming schedule. That's just as good as Winnipeg's streaming schedule. So that opens up your teams to stream from pretty considerably. So take that into account, set those lineups ahead of time, run through, check where you have some open space, and see what you can do from there. All right, Blake, kicking it back to you. Take us through the worst teams to stream and drop fringe players from.
Bang. Absolutely, my man. Okay, so this week, like Nate said, it's condensed because we don't have that Sunday. So there are no teams that play 2 games. So the lowest that a team plays is 3 games. And there are 11 teams actually that play 3 games with 0 off nights, right? They play all on the busy nights. And those teams are the Coyotes, the Carolina Hurricanes, the Avalanche, Nashville Predators, Ottawa Senators, San Jose Sharks, St. Louis Blues, Tampa Bay Lightning, Toronto Maple Leafs, Vancouver Canucks, and the Vegas Golden Knights. So what Nate and I are going to do, we thought we'd give you at least one player to consider dropping from each of these teams to consider dropping. All right. Because yeah, we're talking about 3 game weeks. It has to all make sense for your team, right? Exactly what Nate said, but you got to set it early and see where the gaps are. Okay. Let's go. First, we got to talk about Arizona. And yeah, I think you got to look at a player like Nick Schmaltz. And I know Nate and I have been touting this guy, and I still believe in this player, right? But not at all costs. I mean, he's 34% rostered. Is someone going to rush out and grab Nick Schmaltz right off the wire if you drop him? Like, probably not. He's not really doing anything, and he is potentially battling an injury. So, yeah, I mean, Nick Schmaltz is there on Arizona. Any thoughts on Arizona at all, Nate, before we move on?
Yeah, Schmaltz is the one that's kind of interesting. Has 0 points in his last 5 games. Doesn't even have a shot on goal in his last 2. It does seem like the injury might be affecting him a fair bit at this point. And yeah, it might have happened somewhere in this 5 game stretch where he's got no points, and it might really be holding him down. So I am considering dropping Schmaltz, depending obviously on the rest of my lineup.
But don't even think about dropping Jack McBain. All right, you hold him till the wheels fall off. All right, book it. Don't listen to what I'm saying in that moment there. All right, let's move on. We got to talk about the Carolina Hurricanes. And there's some interesting pieces here, right? Like they have a lot of fringe players already, right? Like a lot of their defensemen, are probably droppable. But why don't we talk about Toivo Teravainen? What's he doing, Nate? Are we dropping Toivo Teravainen this week? I mean, what's he done in the last 5 games?
I mean, he's only got 1 assist. Actually, if you look back even further, he's only got 1 assist in his last 7 games. So
Yeesh.
obviously, that's not ideal. Still skating, averaging over 18 minutes a night in the last 5 here. The underlying metrics are putrid.
Yep.
309th in shots per 60, for example. Not much better across the other things that we like to look at here. So, yeah, I'm not excited about Teravainen. He had a really nice start. He was, yeah, just
Yep.
had a really high shooting percentage. He's still at a 17.2% shooting percentage on the season. Yeah, I'm totally willing to move off Teravainen if I have a better streaming option this week.
Yeah. What about Seth Jarvis? I saw you put out a tweet about Seth Jarvis, which I agree with. But yeah, just what's your take on Seth Jarvis there in a week like this?
Seth Jarvis is somebody you got to hang on to, in my opinion. I think he's a rest of season hold at this point until further notice. He's 43rd in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60 over the last little bit. Had an assist in the game here. He's got 2 points his last 5, so the counting stats haven't been there, but he's averaging 19 and a half minutes a night. He's just another example of a number of Hurricanes players who are just a little bit snake bitten, and he's still pacing for 27 goals, 57 points on the season. So I'm all in on Seth Jarvis. I'm holding him.
Love it. Okay, cool. Let's move on. We got to talk about the Avalanche and the A&G legend, that poster boy, that beautiful man, the alliteration, Bowen Byram. Yeah, 28% rostered. I think that this could be the week where we're like, you know what? Bowen, thank you for your service. Oh, damn. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, thank you for what you do, Bowen Byram. But yeah, I don't think this is a week where we can maybe hold through because he just hasn't been doing anything really. Like 2 assists in the last 5 games. I mean, what else is going on with Bowen Byram there, Nate?
Yeah, it's not great. The on ice numbers are predictably decent, but the on ice numbers have, or the sorry, the individual numbers have really taken a dip this year for Bowen Byram, which is not something that I would have expected. Yeah, he's taken a step back this year. There's no other way to put it. When
Yep.
we've got a 29 game sample at this point, he's on a 14 goal, 28 point pace. I think that he'll have a better season than that on the whole, and he'll get hotter at some point. Obviously, if Makar were to miss some time, if that injury flares up to be worse than it is currently, and he misses some time,
Mm-hmm.
and Byram gets more ice time as a result of that, then you could be looking at some more value for him. But yeah, he's legitimately just not played well so far this season, and I think I'm willing to let him go now.
Yeah, absolutely. It sucks. I'm still super interested in the player, and I'm going to be watching him if I do drop him. I've got him in a couple spots, and I'm not sure if I'll be dropping. It doesn't exactly make sense for my team. Like one thing about these streaming shows that we're talking about, I don't know about you, Nate, but for me, I find it a lot easier to get defensemen in. So like on those busy nights. So I mean, if Byram's playing on those nights, I'm not dropping him. There's unless there's like some amazing guy on the wire that I need to pick up and really capitalize on. But just keep that in mind, right? If Byram's playing, you don't need to drop him, right? But if he's not making the cut on those busy nights, yeah, get the hell out of my sight. All right. Sorry, Bowen Byram. Let's move on. All right. We got to talk about the Nashville Predators, and there's some interesting pieces here. Oh, yeah. I mean, you got guys like Gustav Nyquist, Colton Sissons, Nate's favorite player. Those guys, you could punt them away. But what about Ryan O'Reilly, Nate? 62% rostered, 4 points in the last 5. What are you doing with this stallion, this bearded beauty?
Yeah, I think you're trying to hang on to him for sure. You can see that, yeah, on the season, 36 goals, 71 point pace.
Crazy.
Honestly, I don't think the goals are here to stay, but maybe the points are. Like, he's just getting so much
Yep.
ice
Yep.
time, and the Predators have been better offensively than anticipated. Philip Forsberg is really driving play, and they already had probably the best, or in the top 3 anyway,
Yep.
best offensive defenseman in the league in Roman Yossi. I think honestly, if Roman Yossi played in a bigger market anywhere, like he would, yeah,
Blast
he would be
off.
getting all the accolades that everybody gives to other players. So, Ryan O'Reilly, I think I'm trying to hold if I can.
How good is Philip Forsberg? Damn, another OT winner tonight. I've got this guy in 3 spots, and man, this feels so good because he was drafted in the hundreds. This guy, he's ranked 9th overall in Cupful. That's a spicy meatball right there. I don't know. Shout out to Philip Forsberg. You got him anywhere, Nate?
I do have Forsberg in a couple spots. I've always been higher on Forsberg than consensus. Seems like people give him the injury discount, and I'm happily taking that every single year.
Absolutely. He's going to go out and break a leg next game. All right. I'm knocking on wood right there. That's what that is called. Let's move on. We got to talk about the Ottawa Senators. So it was a good streaming team this week, right? They have the Friday, Sunday, so which is really nice. But yeah, now we got to figure out what we want to do with some of these players, right? Talked about Tarasenko missing time there. I'm not sure if you can get him into your IR plus. I might be willing to hold on to Tarasenko there. And maybe he gets into your lineup. Like, he has been playing well, but I think he's an option there. And then you're also looking at Josh Norris, who, Nate, you've made a believer out of me. I picked him up in 2 spots. I mean, before this last week here, but yeah, I'm not rushing out to drop Josh Norris. That's for sure. I love the deployment. I love the shots. What are you doing if you had to drop one of those 2 players? Who are you dropping?
I dropped Tarasenko over Norris for sure. Pretty similar in terms of like shots per 60. They're 67th and 68th, actually.
Crazy.
Some of the other stats actually lean a little bit Tarasenko's way, but Josh Norris is getting the top power play deployment, and that's really what I'm the most interested in here and what I think is the most sustainable. I think these are probably players of similar talents at this point in both of their careers, and so I'll take the guy who's on the top power play.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been much more efficient this season, obviously, too, and just in his career, I think. So I like that. All right, let's move on. San Jose Sharks, pretty much you're dropping everybody. You could hold these guys. Fabian Zetterlund's been a nice surprise, but I mean, he's not a must hold or anything like that. We got to talk about Thomas the Turtle Hurdle. Is he not turtly enough for the Turtle Club? He's super turtly, all right? He's not turtle, he's hurdle, all right? I'm digressing. None of that makes any sense. So let's talk about Thomas Hurdle. So 51% rostered, obviously has, had a good stretch here, and then, it's kind of gone a little bit cold as well. Actually, what am I talking about? 6 points in 5 games. Oh man. So yeah, what's your thought on Thomas Hurdle, and what are we doing with him this 3-game week with 0 off nights? You holding, you drop it.
I don't think you have to hold Thomas Hurdle, but again, I think he's plenty good enough to keep doing it. He's skating like
Yeah,
in the last 5 games here, he's
amazing.
skating average over 23 minutes a night, and he's still firing 20. He's 29th in shots per 60. He obviously had the 9-shot game and the 8-shot game that helped him out there, but I think Hurdle is good enough to sustain. Like right now, he's on a 26 goal, 68 point pace. I think he can sustain that, quite honestly.
Yeah.
I don't think that's outlandish. So that's usually a rosterable player in a lot of leagues, and so I'm willing to hang on to Hurdle, but I'm also like, you're not going to lose your season if you drop Thomas Hurdle and somebody else picked him up. So if you need it, you can go drop him.
What about Mikhail Granlund? That beauty, that 8 points in 5 games. Is this a droppable player?
Yeah, 100%. You can drop Mikhail Granlund. Underlying metrics are pretty terrible. He is getting tons of deployment, so he'll run into a few points here or there. But like, if Hurdle is not going to win or lose you your season, then Granlund is several orders of magnitude below that, not going to lose you your season.
That's a lot of big words there, Nate. You lost me, but what I'm getting from this is Granlund. See you later. Bye-bye. He was on the Sell High show, everybody. So see if you can flip him. There you go. I don't know. Maybe someone's on the Granlund train. They're like, Mikhail Granlund, I got to get him on my team. All right. 8 points in 5 games. Not everybody does that. All right. And he's doing it at age 30 something, 31. I don't have him in front of me. Sorry about that. All right. Let's move on. Tampa Bay is A-okay. So we're dropping on Tampa. We're looking at players like, I don't know. What do you do with the Bagel? What do you do with Brandon the Bagel Hagel? I mean, this guy's getting reasonable deployment. In fact, good deployment for the most part. Talk to me about Brandon Hagel and your thoughts on that player there, Nate.
Yeah, basically, it's impossible to drop Brandon Hagel as long as he's playing with Nikita Kucherov. That's kind of where it starts and ends for me. As long as Kucherov's on his line, I just can't do it. His underlying metrics are pretty terrible. 246th in shots per 60, 134th in individual scoring chances for per 60. Obviously, the on-ice stats are a little better. Skating almost 20 minutes a night. Like, he's just going to sleepwalk his way into a 70-point season playing alongside Kucherov at even strength. So I'm hanging on to Hagel.
Yep. And that's kind of the cutoff for this team, right? I mean, anybody below Hagel, bye-bye, right? But
Yep.
I think you got to hang on to Hagel, right? Because that deployment, that's sick. Unless he pulls a Braden Point and gets no points from playing on this man's line. How? I don't know what's happening. All right, let's talk about St. Louis. With Kevin McAllister as the new head coach, right? Got it right the second time. Buzz, your girlfriend. Woof. All right. Okay. Who we drop? Let's look at the St. Louis Blues. So I think, they've had some reasonable streamers for a little while here, but we got guys like Braden Shen, who are probably, I'm not holding Braden Shen in any places really. What do you talk to me about Braden Shen, and then talk to me about upstart Jake Neighbors. Hello, neighbor.
Yeah, Braden Shen and Jake Neighbors, I think, are both droppable. Yeah, Shen is on the top power play, so that part is nice. But again, we don't really know if that's going to stick, if that's just a one game thing. Like, he could be off next game, and it wouldn't shock me either. So there's that to it, and his 5v5 line is pretty atrocious. They don't have a ton of depth in St. Louis, obviously, so that's part of the problem. And then Jake Neighbors got pushed even further down the lineup. He's like line 3, power play 2. Unfortunately, I still think that what he showed us is real. It's pretty hard to fake what he was able to put on record, both in the scoring column and in the chances and shots produced. So I do think that Jake Neighbors is a guy I want to watch, and if he gets back up to line 1, power play 1 like he was before, I'd be all in on that. But for the moment, I think you can drop Neighbors as well.
Yeah. And then just a shout out to Robert Thomas. It's 3 a.m. I must be lonely. Is that's right? I don't know.
Yep, you
Okay.
got it.
Yeah, sweet. All right. I lost it there for a second, but I got it back. Yeah, this guy's been awesome. Up his shots. His shots this season and his deployment is going through the roof. I don't know why I'm talking about this player, but he's on an 85-point pace. I like the player a lot, and he played a ton of minutes in that first game for new coach Drew Bannister and got 3 points. So, yeah, I think this guy's only rostered Robert Thomas at 60%. Get Robert Thomas on your team and do it now, all right? I think this is a player that's about ready to pop. Booch Davis, too, is at 68%. I think these guys are viable players. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Nate.
No, Thomas and Buchnevich should be rostered in every competitive 12-team or higher league.
Do it now. All right, let's talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs. Who are we dropping here? Pretty much everybody who's not on the top power play, and Noah Gregor. All right, you keep Noah Gregor. No, don't keep Noah Gregor. That's a joke. But he is getting top line deployment. That's nice. But yeah, talk to me about your team there, Nate. What are you seeing, and who are you comfortable dropping? Is it as simple as that? Everybody not on the top power play?
It really is. Yeah, there's just not much that excites me about anybody that's not on that top power play. And just for context, that is Morgan Riley on the back end, and then Matthews, Tavares, Marner, and Nylander up front. So anybody with not those names, you can drop.
Okay. All right. You got Nate's seal of approval here. All right. Sweet. Let's move on. We got to talk about the Vancouver Canucks and who to drop. I think there's a pretty clear one, and it's just so hurtful. It's so horrible. But this man, Bench Kuzi, cut his hair in the offseason. He trained in Bali. It's been a debacle. Yeah, I think you can drop Kuzmenko. He's on a lot of waiver wires in a lot of really good leagues that I'm in, like really hard leagues. Kuzmenko's on the wire. People are not holding on to this guy, and I don't think there's any reason to while he's playing this way. He's on top power play, so that does have value, but he's toiling away on the third and fourth line. He's getting like 12 minutes a night, and he just doesn't look confident out there. And it's kind of a known issue here in Vancouver that Kuzmenko's confidence is a bit shaken, right? He's working with the assistant coaches on certain things. Like, actually, just a little off topic here, but Tocchet he gives a lot of X's and O's in his post-game pressers. I love that. Like, he was talking very specifically about they're trying to get Kuzmenko's one-timer like firing on his one side there, so that because other teams are not respecting Kuzmenko when he's over there, and they're just leaning over towards Pettersson's side, and they're kind of giving Kuzmenko space because they don't think he's going to one-timer. But he did get a one-timer goal the other night, so I don't know. That's a little off topic, but I just love when coaches get into the X's and O's like that, the details. So anyways, Kuzmenko, all that to say, you can probably drop this player. He's 67% rostered. No one's going to be going out in the wire to pick up Kuzmenko. You could probably grab him when he puts a couple games together, even though he does have goals in 2 straight. Like the ice time's terrible. 15 minutes last game, and then 12:56 the game before. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. So I don't know. Any thoughts on Kuzmenko there, Nate?
Kuzmenko's a drop for me. Yeah, it's just the ice time. Power play 1 is nice, but you're just praying for a power play point.
That's right. And they're all going to Besser and Miller. All right. Besser is just superhuman this year. I don't know what's happening. He took Kuzmenko's hair power and it went on to Besser's head. And now we see what the hell's going on. I don't understand. None of that makes sense as well. Let's move on to the last team here. Vegas Golden Knights. And who are we dropping on the Golden Knights? I think we got to look at players, definitely fringe players like Braden McNabb, right, is one who we've sort of highlighted here. He's 47% rostered. But what about like Barbashev or Will Carlson? What are you doing with those players, Nate?
I think you got to hold Carlson for what he's been able to put up so far this year, but Barbashev is a clear drop in my opinion, and McNabb is as well.
What about Chandler Bing Stevenson?
Yeah, you can drop him too.
Bang, get the hell out of my sight. All right. Those are your fringe drops. And that's what we do. We got to get on to the best teams to stream, or as Nate loves to call it, Cream's Dream Streams. All right. Try saying that 3 times fast, Nate. You got it?
No, you go ahead.
No. Okay, that's fine. We'll do it. We'll take it offline. All right, let's talk about. There are a couple teams, as Nate mentioned in the opening there, that have a clear advantage in this week, and we need to get on these players pretty damn quick because these off nights are going to be really important. So we're talking about the best team here with 4 games and 3 off nights. It's the Detroit Red Wings, right? So we're looking at players like Jake Wallman. He's out there and he can do stuff. Good shot producing defenseman from the back end, get the occasional goal, good periffs. And JT Compher, who will be back, it sounds like, in the lineup this Saturday. And I think he's primed to hit that top line there with Kane and DeBrincat. So that could be a really nice piece. I think Compher's got to be rostered this week coming up here. What about some of these other guys here in the list here, Nate?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of guys that you can think about. We talked about Joe Veleno. You got your Robbie Fabry. You got Andrew Kopp. You got Michael Rasmussen. You got Daniel Sprong, who I know you love.
A slinky.
Yeah. The problem that I have here is all of the underlying metrics for every single one of these players is pretty atrocious. So really, Jake Wallman is the only guy that I'm like excited about in any capacity to look and see if he's out there on the wire. He might not be depending on your league. He's, I think, 44% roster currently on Yahoo. So depending on your league, he might be out there. Go check for that one. That one I'm definitely interested in, especially if you got blocks. He absolutely does that. He's definitely doing that thing. JT Compher could be a little bit interesting. Depends on the minutes, really. Like it's between Andrew Kopp and JT Compher for me is the most interesting stream, just to see who's going to be getting those minutes. If JT Compher comes back and he's instantly back into a ton of minutes, then I'm interested in that. Andrew Kopp, like, yeah, the underlying metrics, again, terrible, but 18 plus minutes a night for the last 5 games. That part I'm interested in. Joe Veleno, I'm just really, really out on at this point. He had terrible metrics while playing really big minutes with really big players. And yeah, he lucked his way into a few points, but I don't think this is a player that we should be rostering for next week, even with the terrific schedule.
There you go. Shout out to Joe Veleno. You're not rostering him even with the terrific schedule. Oh my goodness. Just throwing shade at Joe Veleno. Just catching strays here on the A&G podcast here. You got to roster the slinky, Nate. Okay. Daniel Sprong, maybe not in the last 5 games, but check those metrics on the season, my man. He's doing sprongy things and we're happy about it. All right. I don't know. I'm digressing there, but yeah, I definitely like Wallman. I like Comfort and I like Sprong. And I picked up Rasmussen in the league as well, just because it was slim pickings and I was trying to set myself up for next week. So there you go. All right, let's move on. We got to talk about the Winnipeg Jets. That's the next team that has a good schedule. They play 3 games all on the off nights, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So, and we got some developments here in Winnipeg. It's amazing. It's Nikolaj Ehlers season, everybody. We're there. All right. 4 points in his last game. Yes. Yes, sir. That is what we need. You know what he needed the whole time? To play with Mark Scheifele. All right. Not away from him. You play with Mark Scheifele. All right. You know, if something's not working, you do the opposite. You give it a try. All right. But anyways, I'm digressing. Nikolaj Ehlers is there and he looks good, right? He looks real confident. He's doing crazy stuff with the puck as he usually does. And he's rushing the puck like a madman. So I'm really big on Ehlers. That guy needs to be rostered this week. And probably depending on how this week goes, like he could be a rest of season guy, right? Just like, you know, we're always hoping here at A&G that Ehlers is going to land in a consistent spot, get good deployment and that power play one time, right? And this goes a long way. Like his line there, Ehlers, Velarde, and Mark Scheifele, they popped off last game. Velarde got 4 points himself too. So there's some amazing options here. So anyways, Ehlers, Neil Pionk is out there. So definitely rosterable, especially in Cats leagues. He does that. Mom Spaghetti, Cole Perfetti is out there. Nino Niederreiter, or as I call him, Ned Niederlander. And then Gabe Velarde as well, who we talked about. Adam Lowry and Alex Iafallo. Of those players, how are we ranking those, Nate?
Yeah, I mean, Velarde is the guy that I'm most interested in beyond
Oh,
Ehlers. Ehlers is the obvious one, then Velarde for the deployment. And honestly, the underlying metrics are pretty good for Velarde as well.
nice.
The last little bit, especially in terms of scoring chances that he's been able to get. So Velarde is definitely the most interesting. Beyond that, like Perfetti, I guess, for the power play one deployment,
Yep.
but like Niederreiter, Lowry, I follow all those guys. It's just like toss a name in a hat and pick one out, and you hope that they're the guy who gets 2 points in those 3 games this
Yeah.
week.
They're reasonable though. I like Nino for sure. Like if you miss out on these other guys, like yeah, Niederreiter's absolutely a decent stream. He can put up some points and definitely per riffs. Like he's very valuable in a cats league. So anyway, check that out. I follow has been a bit rough there as well. He's not really putting any games together like he did earlier in the season. So, but he's a kind of a glue player, so he might be able to do something this week. Anywho, let's move on now to the next two teams that have a good schedule. It's the Seattle Kraken and the Montreal Canadiens, both with 3 games and 2 off nights. And again, what makes it good is those 2 off nights, right? It's extremely valuable this week. So we got to remember that. Let's talk about Montreal first. We're looking at Sean Monahan, if he's out there, Juraj Slavkovsky, Brendan Gallagher. Is anybody rostering Brendan Gallagher? I actually, when I go through the metrics and stuff, like Brendan Gallagher always shows out. He's getting like 11 minutes or something like that. And the guy's just pumping shots on net, getting chances. I don't know. And then Josh Anderson is out there as well, but none of these are blowing my hair back. You know what I mean? What's left of it. So I don't know. Where are you at with Montreal and what are you doing with these players here?
Yeah, I'm really trying to avoid Montreal, quite
Yeah.
honestly. I'm not excited about any of these. Slavkovsky's on the top line with Suzuki and Caulfield, and he is not doing anything with that. He has 0 points in his last 5 games, and the underlying metrics do not look good either. So I'm not excited about Slavkovsky, even though he's getting the best deployment. Sean Monahan has 3 goals, 4 points in his last 5, and he's on the top power play. He's definitely the top guy, in my
Yep.
opinion, from Montreal. But again, I'm not excited. I'm much more interested in some of the Seattle guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What's Montreal? Is Slavkovsky, is he a bust? Is he going to be a bust, do you think?
I mean, it's very early. The kid's still like, what is he? Is he 20 yet? He's
Yeah.
19 or 20 years old. Like, it's way too early to say, in my opinion. I'm, I don't feel confident making any proclamations, but the early returns have been terrible.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's only 19. Damn, what the hell am I talking about? It's crazy though. Like you get drafted high up, like first overall. There's expectations that come with that, isn't there? And
For
it's like,
sure.
what's he doing? He didn't come in and like light up the league. Like, yeah, he's a 19-year-old kid. He's playing against a bunch of grown ass men. So yeah, that's good perspective check for me right there, Nate. Thank you for that. All right, appreciate that. Let's talk about the Seattle Kraken. All right, they're releasing the Kraken on this week. All right, and we're looking at players like that beefer, that serious beefer, Adam Larson. My goodness, and then a guy I highlighted in our buy low show, Oliver Bjorkstrand, the jerk store, just went and popped for 3 points the other night. I'm going to pat myself on the back. All right. That's nice. But I like Bjorkstrand a lot this week. Matty Beniers is there. Jordan Eberle, Yanni Gord. Yanni. All right. What are you doing with these players? Tell me what you like about the jerk store.
Yeah, I like Bjorkstrand. His shot production has been terrific the last little while, like the last month, honestly. So that's nice. He has this 3 point outburst, which is finally making up for some of those nights where he should have had way more.
Yeah, no kidding.
Um, Only skated 13:30 in that game, but it was a 7-1 blowout. I think you can pretty much explain it that way. So I'm not expecting that that's like a terrible trend that's going to continue. I will say he did come down. He was skating like 18, 19, 20 minutes a night for a hot minute there. And in the last 2 before this 3 point outburst game, he was down under 16 minutes in both of those games. So, yeah, probably going to be a guy around 16 minutes again. So that temper your expectations a little bit here. But overall, I think Bjorkstrand is probably the most exciting guy that you can get on the Kraken right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not saying much. Like what, this team, man, it's just the stream team. Like I was just looking at the rostership on Yahoo. Like it goes Vince Dunn, Jared McCann, like, 93% and 76% respectively. And then it's like the next roster player is Eli Tolvanen at 55. And then everybody below that is like 38 or less, right? Like Bjorkstrand is 38% rostered. he's out there, So it's just a hard team to get excited about. But yeah, if there's anyone on that team, I definitely like Tolvanen and I like Bjorkstrand as well. So take a look there. Let's move on. The next team we're looking at is a 4-game team, but they only have one off night, and that's Minnesota. The Minnesota Wild, the upstart Minnesota Wild, putting some victories together without Kaprizov doing a damn thing. So that's really weird. But yeah, so you're looking at players there like Jared Spurgeon, Ryan Hartman, Marco Rossi. And then, for beefers, you're looking at Marcus Foligno. He can do stuff. And then Brock Faber, too, as we talked about him. What are your thoughts on Hartman and Rossi there and kind of what's going on between those two? Because I believe those are probably the two that I'm interested in the most. Spurgeon, yeah, we'll see. He's a game time decision. And if he gets that power play one again, sure. We're definitely liking Spurgeon there. But what are your thoughts, Nate?
Yeah, both these guys getting somewhere around 15 minutes a night through the last 5 games. Rossi's got a couple goals, 3 points. Hartman's just got 2 assists. Hartman's playing down the lineup on the third line with Connor Dewar and Brandon Duhaime. That's
Ew.
obviously not great. Marco Rossi's been skating with Zuccarello and Johansson. Honestly, though, Hartman has a little bit better metrics than Rossi does, but I still think I'd take Rossi if I had to choose between them. Neither of these guys are on the top power play currently, so you're not getting that either. But Rossi's actually scoring some goals here and playing with, Matt Zuccarello and Marcus Johansson is much better than Dewar and Duhaime.
Yeah, he looks good too. And buddy, when you come across the Zuccarello, you got to say the zucchini man. And I heard you do it on your solo pod. And you know what? I was a proud papa. All right, I felt very good. This man's a lot younger than me, so I can say that. I mean, in this context, all right, that's fine. But yeah, Nate, you had a chance and you blew it big time. All right, let's
I'm
agree on
sorry.
that. That's okay. Well, I'll accept your apology this time. All right, let's move on. Last two teams we got to talk about. 3 games played, 1 off night, and no Saturday games. It's Edmonton and it's Philly. So again, 3 games played, 1 off night. So let's talk about that. Again, Edmonton's rough with streamers. It always is, right? Because all the best guys are rostered. But Matthias Ekholm is worth a stream, I think. I rostered him at times this season, dropped him, picked him up again. Like he's doing just enough to be valuable, like in most formats. So I'm low key into Ekholm as a streamer, for 1 or 2 games or whatever. Warren Fogle. He's out there. Matthias Janmark. Damn. Okay, this is what we call the bottom of the barrel. Anybody you're interested in on Edmonton there, Nate?
Yeah, really, it's only Ekholm. You'd have to be in an extremely deep league to be considering Fogel or Janmark, but they were playing with Draisaitl at even strength in the last
Yep.
game, so really
Yep.
you'd just be chasing that exposure to Leon Draisaitl at even strength. Fogel does have he does consistently have really solid metrics. He's 26th in the league in individual scoring chances, 4/60
Oh, damn.
on the season here, but he's also one of these guys who just never converts on anything that he does. So definitely like one of those hustle guys who can't actually put it in the back of the net. Sorry, Warren Fogle, but yeah. I think really you're only looking at Ekholm here from this team if he's available. And Ekholm, to his credit, is 16th amongst all defensemen in individual scoring chances for per
Nice.
60 this season. So he's actually looking pretty solid in his own right.
Absolutely. Buddy, are we Warren Fogle fans here at A&G now? I mean, is he going on the Twitter banner? Are we replacing Ross Colton because of his cameo snub and putting in Warren Fogle? Is that where we're at now?
I wouldn't go that far, no.
Oh, damn. Okay. All right. Well, let's think about. Let's not rule anything out. Let's just be open minded
Okay.
on that. All right. Let's move on. Philadelphia Flyers, the last team to talk about here, and then we'll get into the best players to stream. Okay. For the Philly Flyers, we got to talk about Owen Tippett. Bang. I love Owen Tippett. I love talking about Owen Tippett. I would love it more if he could get more than 15 minutes time on ice per game. Can you end power play 1? Can we do that, Torts? Can you help us out? Can you do anything that anybody likes? Yeah, I don't know. Hammering on Tortorella here. I don't know what's going on, but yeah, Owen Tippett, great. Well, Nate will talk about his metrics, really good stuff. Sean Couturier, yeah, this guy's flying right now, and he's only 30% rostered. Damn. So top line, top power play. What are we doing? I think that guy should definitely be rostered more than 30%. That's for sure. So you're looking there, Cam Atkinson, Tyson Forster. Farabee, I don't know. I'm never interested in Farabee. Morgan Frost, that super villain Morgan Frost, Cam York, and then we got to talk about Rasmus Ristolainen, who's now taking some reps on power play 1. I don't know. Talk to me about some of these Flyers, Nate, and what your thoughts are.
Yeah, it's a mess, honestly. Definitely.
Yep.
Owen Tippett definitely, like, if you're just going strictly off under the hood metrics, 16th in the last 5 games in shots per 60, 20th in individual scoring chances for per 60, but the on ice numbers are atrocious. And that's probably something to do with the fact that he's been skating with Morgan Frost and Bobby Brink at even strength and not with anyone with some offensive prowess that they demonstrate on a consistent basis. Having said that, Morgan Frost's on ice numbers have been pretty solid, but again, Morgan Frost has been on the top power play, so he's definitely getting a boost there. Yeah, Ristolainen definitely one to watch. He did get a couple reps at the end of the last game on the top power play unit instead of Cam York. So we'll see if that continues or if it doesn't, but definitely one to watch there. It's hard to get excited about Ristolainen,
Yeah.
to be quite honest, unless you're in, a bangers league, then definitely has a lot more value. But uh, yeah, I mean, I've said this before about Cam York versus Travis Sanheim. I'm just kind of chasing whoever's on the top power play there and getting some minutes. The other problem with Ristolainen, right? Like he's averaging under 18 minutes a game his last
Yeah.
5 games, which is really surprising because it really did seem like Torts had it in for Ristolainen all of last year, and then now he's up here on the top power play. I just don't know exactly what's going on there. If you
It doesn't make
go,
a bit of sense. Yeah.
yeah, Couturier's underlying metrics have actually not been that great, but he's definitely the hottest in terms of actual points being scored. Farabee's up there too, 3 goals, 4 points in his last 5, but the underlying metrics don't suggest that that's likely to continue. Forster's getting the deployment, line 1 with Couturier and Konechny and top power play, skating almost 18 minutes a night through the last 5. His
Mhm.
underlying metrics are not great, and he only has the 2 points, 1 goal in the last 5 games, but still, I think that's probably a player worth being a little bit interested in. And then you got Cam Atkinson, who continues to do his thing, 41st in shots per 60 over the last 5, skating just under 17 minutes a night, 0 goals, 2 points in his last 5. So there's lots of options. They're going to jumble all this around, I feel like, pretty consistently. I think I would go with Forster at the top of this list just because he's actually managed to hang on to top power play and top line for a little bit here. And so that's the one I feel the most confident in at this point. I don't feel confident in Morgan Frost staying on the top power play. I feel like that could be any number of players by this time next week. So, yeah. I think it's a bit of a mess after Forster. I'd probably go to Atkinson. I mean, if Tippett's there, Tippett's the guy. I feel like Tippett's, if you're in a sharper league, then Tippett's probably already gone. But yeah, Tippett, then Forster, then Atkinson, I think is the way that I'd go through at the moment. I guess Couturier. It's so
He's
tough.
whipple waffling. Oh
I
my.
am waffling. Now that I say it, I'm waffling. All right, I'm going to rephrase. I would go Tippett, then I think Forster and Couturier are pretty equivalent, and then Atkinson.
Love it. I'm
Final
surprised
answer.
you did. Okay, final. You didn't mention your boy, the new investment you made, Cam York. Yeah, that power play 2 beauty now. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know. I did make a trade today in Cacuffle. I traded away Kevin Fiala and Braden McNabb. Braden McNabb, I was just seeing this box score. Apparently, he only skated, what is it? Got to find this back. 14 minutes, 22 seconds in the game tonight. That's a little
Oh
bit
damn.
surprising.
Yeah, that's weird.
I don't know if there's an injury there or something that we haven't seen come across yet, but yeah, I
Yeah.
traded Braden McNabb and Kevin Fiala for Alex Ovechkin and Cam York. York and McNabb are kind of
So
completely
why?
ancillary pieces and not really something I was super considering. McNabb has a little bit of value in this league just because he blocks so much, and blocks are worth a fair bit, that he kind of just provides that peripheral floor and he can be a nice 4th or 5th defenseman. Cam York obviously has a little bit of upside if he continues to be on power play 1 for the rest of the season. I'll take the chance. I'll drop him if he doesn't produce. But
Yep.
yeah, I'm on the Alex Ovechkin chain finally, Blake.
Yeah, buddy. This is awesome. Thank you for joining me. I traded for him in 3 leagues now. 3 leagues, twice for Alex DeBrincat. I know you don't approve of that, Nate, but Jimmy cracked corn and I don't know. All right. I'm changing the saying, but yeah, this cannot continue. This is insane. He's shooting under 3% on the power play. On the power play. That's just ridiculous. He didn't forget how to play hockey. So I don't know. I've said that on Twitter. I'm saying it here. Alex Ovechkin for president. Let's move on. All right, Nate, you got to tell us about the best players to stream.
Yes, I'm going to rank these out for you guys. So I'm basically assuming that you can only play players on off nights for the purposes of this ranking. So really, it's just based on how many off nights they're going to get. top of the line is obviously Ehlers, in my opinion, head and shoulders above everybody else here. Then Gabe Velarde, who's also probably a tier above the rest, in my opinion. Line one, power play one currently. I don't really have a strong reason to think that won't continue through the next week, through these next 3 games. So
Yep.
Velarde there as number two, pretty clear to me. And then I've got Cole Perfetti as the next one, power play one in Winnipeg. And he's been okay, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
He's got 0 points in his last 5 games, so that part's not great, but he's still on the top power play. He's on a 26 goal, 56-point pace on the season. That part looks pretty sustainable to me overall. So, I mean, it's a streamer, right?
Yep.
There's a
Yep.
reason he's not rostered more widely, but I do think that Perfetti has some juice for this week. And really, the reason that he's above these other players is that beyond that, I'm really going into the 2 off night players. So I'm really comparing Perfetti's chance at 3 games versus these guys' chance at 2 games. So I've got Bjorkstrand, Beniers, Eberle all in a row here. Would take Bjorkstrand comfortably over Beniers and Eberle. That'd be another bit of a tier break for me. You could call even Perfetti and Bjorkstrand a tier together in my mind. And then Beniers and Eberle would be the next tier. Then I go back to the 3 game teams with JT Compher here and Nito Niederreiter. And then I go back to Seattle for Yanni Gord. Yanni Gord's underlying metrics, I should just mention this for a second. Not shabby. 85th in shots per 60, 70th in individual scoring chances for per 60 over his last 5. Just 1 assist to show for it, but he's averaging over 18 minutes a game.
Nice.
So he's definitely getting deployment. Does kill penalties and do those things. So a little bit inflated in that regard, but definitely I think Yanni Gord, you could do worse in a deeper league. And then lastly, to round it out, I will go back to the Winnipeg Jets and grab Adam Lowry. Lowry's just been a guy that I've streamed from time to time, and he's always come through for me with a goal or two. So I've got some residual love for Adam Lowry from previous year's streams, and so I'm banking on it that he's not going to let me down one more time. What do you think about this list, Blake? Who do you hate? Who do you love?
Yeah, Adam Lowry. I don't know. I'm Mike Lowry. I was thinking Bad Boys. Mike Lowry. No, but it's a weird week. Like I love Ehlers at the top. That's amazing. I'd probably put Bjorkstrand a little higher, maybe higher than Perfetti, I think. But I just like the player a little bit better. I don't know. I'm not high on Perfetti. I like the deployment, but that's really it. It's a slim pickings. Like
Yeah.
the top 3 are great, but oh man, I'm not into it. What are we gonna do?
Yeah. All right, let's keep rolling. Talk about the best for hits. So basically, I'm just pulling these from the Jets and the Red Wings
Yeah.
because, yeah, it's hits. You just want to count up as many as you can. So you're going to get these guys in for sure. Brendan Dillon, Dylan DeMello, Neil Pionk, Ben Sherratt, and Jeff Petrie for hits. Honorable mention to Marcus Foligno. If you do have room on the heavy nights, then you can put in, or if you're just you're going to prioritize hits over some point scorers on your team, you're willing to bench some other players to get those hits, you can definitely go for Marcus Foligno from the Minnesota Wild. He does play 4 games, so he can actually get you volume if you're willing to play him over some people. Best for blocks, I'm going Jake Wallman at the top, Ben Sherratt, Brendan Dillon again, Jeff Petrie again, Neil Pionk again. These characters are familiar. Honorable mention again, same idea. If you do want to go with the 4 games from the Minnesota Wild, you can grab Jake Middleton, and he will do the blocking for you. Who's your favorite? Who do you love from this list?
I love them all. I'm so inspired. But if I got to say, I love Ben Sherratt. And I've got a new nickname for him, the Shart. All right. Ben the Shart Sherratt. All right. Yeah, no, I like that player. Actually, I've brought him in a couple times. And I like Jake Middleton just for his mustache. So that's great analysis, but let's move on.
Elite mustache.
Yeah.
That is definitely
Beautiful.
true. All right, let's talk about the best players to add for the future. Some long-term plays, if you will. Nikolai Ehlers, top of the list, has to be at this point. I realized that, mea culpa here. I think I was probably being a little inconsistent with how I was treating Owen Tippett, him being on this list for the last number of weeks and Ehlers being off of it. I was just probably a little bit burnt out on Ehlers in the 12-minute games and things like that were happening, and I wasn't
Yeah.
continuing to do put into practice what I often preach, and that's to look at the upside of the player and consider what it could be if things go right, because that's where you get the bigger breakouts. So Ehlers skyrockets back to the top of this list here. I'm sorry I ever doubted you, my good friend. Nick Schmaltz still on this list. I'm a little bit worried, as I mentioned, about the about the injury going on right now, but if it's small enough for him to continue to play through, then you have to think that it's not something that they're expecting to get worse or to
Yeah.
linger or anything like that. So I'm a little bit worried about him for next week, and that's why I said you could drop him if you need to. But long term, I still expect Nick Schmaltz will continue to do what he's always done and score 70 plus points every season. Owen Tippett still on the list here, still hitting, shooting, doing all of that, just at the mercy of Torts and his minute distribution. Troy Terry, again, another 4-shot night here tonight. He's been doing everything except getting on the scorecard. Yeah, I don't know what to make of it, to be honest with you. Definitely, it's going to help once all the troops come back. They get Drysdale back, they get Zegers back, they get McTavish back. That's definitely going to help. I mean, Troy Terry has a goal and 3 points in his last 5 games, so it's not like he's absolutely devastated you the way he was earlier, averaging over 18 and a half minutes a game, so that part's nice. And I do think that he's one of these guys that they're going to have to ride. And then Josh Norris sneaking in as the fifth player on the list. Got a couple goals this week. The underlying metrics have been ticking up so far, and he's a staple on the top power play, and that power play should get rolling, and he should get a lot more of it, in my opinion. So Josh Norris is a player that I like here as well. Moving on to sub 20% roster to go a little deeper for you. I got Matias Maccelli here. Maccelli scored the only goal in Arizona's 1-0 win over the San Jose Sharks here in this game. A guy that I talked about earlier this week. I've got a lot of love for. He's just like turned on the faucet and started shooting somehow. I don't know. I very rarely do you ever see this with any player. So it's pretty interesting. Another 18 minutes skated tonight, another 3 shots. Yeah, I'm just excited about what I'm seeing out of Matias Maccelli and the fact that they're willing to just, yeah, give him all the minutes in the world, let him figure it out. So that part's exciting. I'm in on Matias Maccelli at the moment. Sub 10% rostered. I will throw Forster in here. He's shown flashes of higher production. Last little bit hasn't been great for the underlying stats, but I do think that, when picking among the sub 10% rostered players on Yahoo, you can definitely do worse than a guy who seems to have got himself a pretty solid place on the top power play at the moment. So Tyson Forster, 6%. I will throw out an honorable mention here, Fabian Zetterlund at 4%. Underlying metrics are just really good. I was shocked, honestly, when I went through and looked at Fabian Zetterlund's. And yeah, just not a guy that I ever would have thought to be talking about. He's only got 2 points his last 5 games, skating over 21 minutes a night, still 61st in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60 over the last 5. And yeah, it's just a constant kind of trend up throughout the season for Fabian Zetterlund in terms of the underlying metrics. And so if you're in a very deep league, I think Zetterlund could actually be a guy that you end up holding on to. Who's your favorite? Who do you not like from my list here, Blake?
I love the list. Shout out to Matias Maccelli. Yeah, you got me on that player. You kind of just opened my eyes to what he's doing, and I was able to grab him in a couple spots, and I'm loving the return. And yeah, this looks like it's just a player that's kind of changed what he's doing out there, which is amazing. I did want to just mention that Trevor Zegras is 40% rostered, and he was at practice. And this is a player that, when he comes back, he's going to be top line, top power play. My guess is that he comes back and plays top line, top power play. So take a look see if Zegras is out there, right? And if you're in one of those leagues that you can add a player directly to your IR, add him, right? Because this guy's going to be back. We're talking about rest of season plays here, right? So I think Zegras with Anaheim's amazing schedule, and he's not going to be 2 points in 12 games kind of guy. He's going to pick it up. So anyways, he's out there 40%. But yeah, I love this list. It's great stuff.
All right, let's keep rolling. Talk about defense. Torrey Krug at the top of the list now. Mentioned that seems like anyway, first game returns are that Krug is going to be a true top power play defenseman. And yeah, obviously that has some interest. Krug has definitely taken a big step this year versus the past few years in terms of the underlying stuff. Like he hasn't had less than 2 shots per game. You would have to go back to November to find a game where he has had less than 2 shots. So that's 7 straight where he's had at least 2, and 6 out of the 7 he's got 3 or more. So he's definitely been pumping shots. He's been between 19 to 24 minutes through this stretch. So all of that works out to a pretty solid rate. We'll see what the new coach thinks of him. That'll really be key here. In this last game, he only had 1901 despite the top power play. So that's something to watch for sure. If the new coach gives them a lot of 5v5 minutes as well as the top power play, then that's when you can obviously really see big returns from a guy like this. Noah Hannafin, number 2. I do think Hannafin's still plenty rosterable, but he was bumped off the top power play. Rasmus Anderson finally back up there. So we'll see where that goes, but I do think Hannafin, plenty rosterable. Does enough in all categories. He's just
Yep.
consistent across the board. People drop him all the time because he's consistent, but he's not elite, so he'll have cold stretches throughout the season. But if you look back at the end of the season, you'll be like, oh yeah, Hannafin had a pretty solid season for me overall. So Hannafin makes the list, and it does get low beyond this. You got Jared Spurgeon, who I still think will have some points, but doesn't shoot, doesn't really hit, does block, but yeah, it's really just like power play points and some blocks that you're hoping for with Spurgeon, so that's a little bit dicey. Owen Power, again, not much of a shooter, but he's going to be on the ice a ton in Buffalo if Buffalo starts to get things untracked. I mean, they had 6 goals here tonight against Vegas, so that's a good step in the right direction. And Owen Power had one of those goals, actually. So there you go. Maybe he's going to turn things around completely and just become a 70-point defenseman.
That sounds realistic. Yeah, yeah, that's
I
nice.
think that's
Yeah,
realistic.
that's good. Yep.
Oh, they took the goal away. Oh man, I saw a goal. I swear I saw a goal for
Now,
Owen
now
Power
Nate's
on
seeing
the
things.
stat
He's
sheet.
he's coming down from the pixie sticks. Everyone.
Yeah, I'm coming down. It's getting late here, so things I might be seeing things that aren't there. That's possible. Pavel Minchikov is still on the list for me in 5th place. It seems like his minutes have slowly just started to decrease. It seemed like originally he was up around 20 minutes, and now he's getting down towards 18, and it's just getting a little bit worse. I do think obviously like he's held on to power play 1 this entire time.
Yeah.
Cam Fowler's the one getting all the even strength minutes, but Minchikov's got the top power play. Still think he's worth hanging on to for that in deeper leagues. 23% roster right now, so he's definitely available. And obviously, once McTavish and Zegras come back, you expect that power play to be much better. So that's my reason that I think Minchikov can actually have some value moving forward still. Sub 20% rostered. Kind of waffling and not picking a side here, but Cam York, Rasmus Ristolainen. I'm interested in whoever's running that top power play for the Philadelphia Flyers. And then sub 10% rostered, Brock Faber, 5% rostered, getting all the minutes. I'm just willing to see where that goes. If you look at the list of sub 10% rostered defensemen on Yahoo right now, you'll understand why I chose Brock Faber. So that's what I have to say about that. Who's your favorite? Who do you hate from this list, Blake?
Yeah, it's just an uninspiring list. I
Yeah.
mean, I've got Noah Hannafin in a couple spots, so I like that. And I have Minty as well, and I have Owen Power. These guys are they're just killing me. Owen Power is a really frustrating one because over 20 minutes time on ice. He's like Casey Middlestad, but he's on the back end. Speaking of Casey Middlestad, well, maybe we'll talk about him later.
Yeah, the one thing I will say about that that just plays into a greater strategy conversation. I know some people have talked about really fading D, and this is one of the reasons that I really don't like fading D is because by this point in the season, the waiver wire at D gets really, really sparse, and it's really
Yep.
hard to find really impact players. There are a few guys usually at the start of every season if you jump on them early enough, but it can be hard to figure out who those guys are. Power play, like you might grab the wrong guy. You might grab Minchikov instead of the guy who's actually gonna
Yep.
truly pop off for the entire season. You might grab Sanheim thinking that he's the guy, and then he loses his top power play, and suddenly he's not as valuable. So I just think it's harder to figure out at D than it is obviously at goalie, which I talk about all the time. But yeah, that's why I really actually do try to focus on building up my D with some solid players that I feel good about. So just a little strategy aside, let's talk
Love it.
about
Oh
the
my God.
goalies. Pyotr Kochetkov, 41%. Ranta got lit up against Nashville tonight, so Kochekov's job seems to be pretty stable there. He had 2 starts in a row before this start for Ranta, so yeah, definitely into Kochekov at this point. Elvis Merzlikins, honestly, Merzlikins is playing terrific
Yeah.
hockey. The Blue Jackets are an absolute tire fire. The Leafs picked them apart defensively after sleepwalking through most of the game until the third period. They just ran the show on the Blue Jackets in the third, and it was like just five guys constantly just like turning in while standing still. It was crazy to watch. Yeah, they're terrible defensively, but Merzlikins is tremendous. So if you're in a league that counts a lot for saves, then he's definitely valuable for that. Charlie Lindgren still on the list. Hasn't had the greatest last little stretch. He has one shutout in there, but aside from that, it's been not great. So a little bit up and down. I still think that he's going to get some run here. I think Washington deserves a little better, maybe, in terms of the goals that they've given up recently. So, yeah, I'll throw Charlie Lindgren in here pretty readily. Sub 25% rostered. We've got Joey Decord with Phil Grubauer being out for some time yet. It still looks like Decord has played really well the last little
Yep.
bit. I picked up Decord and I was very pleased with the results this week. So definitely, Decord is a guy that you can look at. I mean, who's to say how long this is going to last? I have no idea. You have no idea. But as long as it's lasting, I'm into it. And maybe he just completely unseats Grubauer. I've talked about how Seattle has improved their 5v5 play to a point where they're actually dominating play a fair bit, especially against worse teams. So Decord can be more than just a streamer if he continues his good play of late and continues to take more of the net share away from Grubauer. And then Ivan Prosvetov. So you might have heard some people talking about Prosvetov and how he's taken a few more starts of late away from Georgiev. He had a start, lost 5-2 against Philadelphia. That wasn't great. Then came in relief of Georgiev against Calgary. Didn't allow any goals and actually won that game. And then he allowed just one goal on 30 shots against Buffalo and won that game. And so now we have this back-to-back this weekend. Georgiev's going to play a game and Prosvetov's going to play a game. I'm guessing at this point that Georgiev is going to get the Saturday against Winnipeg, and then Prosvetov's going to get the prime matchup against San Jose. If that goes as per expectation, then you would expect that he'd have a nice outing there. And then who knows from that point onward, right? Especially if Georgiev looks a little bit shaky again against Winnipeg. So, yeah, who's to say what's going to happen from this point onward? But definitely, like, if there's any chance that this guy's walking into a timeshare even in Colorado, like, that's somebody you got to roster because obviously Colorado is one of the top teams in the league. At goalie, Blake, who do you like from
Uh,
this list?
these are all great options. These are all 0G guys, right? These are
Yeah,
all rosterable, like giving you value. Kochetkov is the guy. I think he's must roster. I think he's got to be added more than 41%. This is like Anderson is not coming back anytime soon. It's month to
yep.
month. The last thing we heard from Brindamore. So that's and he might not be back at all. Like it's a serious medical issue that he's dealing with. So and I trust Kochetkov so much more than Ranton. I think they want to go that way anyway. So I like Kochetkov a lot. And then I'm glad you brought Prosvetov in here. This guy was an amazing stream for this week. Like, who would have thought he would get all these games, right? I definitely don't think it's going to be a timeshare, though. I think that Georgiev is a type of goalie they've just been running out there, running him ragged. You know what I mean? I think they want to see what they have here in Prosvetov and just that they can trust him in a backup role and maybe take some of these games for Georgiev so he's not just smoked by the time he gets into the playoffs, right? So I think they're just seeing what they have here, but early returns look really good. Like this guy's a player, and this week has been amazing for Prosvetov. I'm interested to see what happens moving forward. So yeah, great list here.
All right, we've got to head over to the head-to-head streamer deathmatch. And the record now is 6-2 for Blake. I've been making my comeback slowly but surely, and I was absolutely crushing this week earlier this evening, and then the Buffalo game happened, and Casey Middlestat had 2 goals and an assist on 2 shots, and now it's 15.75 couple points for Casey Middlestat to 13.75 for Josh Norris. Come on, Josh Norris. We got one game left here for each of these players this week. I need Josh Norris to outscore Casey Middlestat by 2 in couple scoring. I know he can do it. He's got another goal left in him. I'm seeing it now. He's gonna bury that one timer on the power play, bar down, and the crowd's gonna go wild, and Blake's gonna go cry. So that's what
This
I'm
is
predicting for this Sunday.
This is like the law of attraction right here. You're really attracting some stuff to yourself. Don't you? Haven't you learned yet, Nate? You never bet against Casey Mid Olstat. All right, you don't do it. All right, because you see what happens.
Yep, gotta love those empty net goals. They do
No,
pad the
don't.
stats exceptionally well. All right. Well, if you made it this far, if you could like and subscribe, that really does help us out. If you're listening on audio on a podcast app, if you can give us a rating and review, that would be terrific. We did get a couple more reviews, and I do want to take just 1 second here. I know this is turning into a beefer of an episode, but
Vapor.
we got a couple of reviews that, yeah, they're interesting to say the least. This one from Jamer412 says, creamy. Can't say enough about what these guys bring to the table each week. The amount of quality content with a relatively small team is astounding. Perfect info/humor balance, in my opinion. 2 thumbs up. That's good stuff. That's the kind of review we like to see. Definitely appreciate that one. Then Zach Gardner says, the best. I listened to several fantasy pods. Nothing is as good as these guys. This crew doesn't just educate, they entertain. Blake is hilarious. This pod is an absolute must follow. Now, Blake, I think you may have gotten a slightly different review in one case. Do you want to take the floor here?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I did get a nice review. The review says, "Thank you for your service. 1 star." But it says, "If I hear that one more time, I might pull my hair out." Lunar lover, I'm so sorry. All right. I'll do better. Okay. I'll work on it. All right. I'm in therapy. I'm working on this. All right. Dang. But, in the meantime, thank you for your service. All right. I really appreciate you listening to our pod. All right, lunar lover. I love the moon too. All right. Are you like a horoscope person? Are you into that? I don't know where I'm going with this, but thank you very much. Okay.
All right. Well, we better get out of here. That is all that we've got for this episode. Hopefully, it brought you some value, helped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. All the advanced stats you heard today came from Natural Stat Trick, which I don't know if you've heard is a terrific free resource.
It's good.
Many thanks to the band. They're there for supplying the music for the podcast. Be sure to check out their Spotify as well. That's it, folks. Much love.